Lydenburg, which means Town of Suffering, lies at the foot of the Long Tom Pass and occupies a special place in the history of the Transvaal. The company of voortrekker leader Andries Potgieter founded it in 1850. On the 6th of February 1873, several prospectors discovered alluvial gold in the district, and the Lydenburg goldfields were proclaimed 3 months later. To this day, the gravels of the Spekboom River are still being washed for alluvial gold. The area around Lydenburg and neighboring Dahlstrom is a fly fishing paradise and has many streams and rivers well stocked with trout. Lydenburg also proved to be a special attraction for the off-road racing fraternity and would be the headquarters for the recent Toyota Dealer 400.
The turnout that we have here is a surprise. It actually surprised all of us. We actually ran out of the refreshments and things. We never expected this turnout. And I can tell you, ever since it became known that this event will take place here, everybody offered their help. It was the traffic department, government departments, even the public, other businesses. Everybody just asked how can they get involved, and I can say it with an open heart. We are delighted to host this event.
The South African Off-Road Car Racing Championship, presented by ABSA, looked set to go down to the wire, and with only 2 events remaining, the Toyota Dealer 400, which was run in the Lydenburg area for the first time ever, would be crucial for many teams. Despite winning the Sun City 400, overall production vehicle championship contenders Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody were only able to increase their lead over Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i in the overall championship by 2 points after the Toyota pair finished 3rd overall and 1st in Class E. Grobler and Leek and Cronje and Birkin are the only crews to have finished every event this season, with the Nissan pair picking up 5 overall wins and a 4th place, and the Toyota duo 3 podium finishes and 4 class wins. Veteran Cassie Coetzee and Okkie Fourie have performed consistently in the Class E Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE and only trailed the leaders by 45 points and their teammates by 27. Coetzee and Fourie have an outside chance of winning the championship if either or both of the 1st and 2nd place crews fail to finish the next 2 events. Grobler has the Class T driver's title already sewn up because 2nd placed Scott Abraham in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep has taken up employment in Germany and will miss the remaining events, while 3rd placed Neil Woolridge in the Team Ford Racing Ranger would fall 7 points short if he were to win the next 2 events, and Grobler did not finish either. Leek need not be too concerned about winning the Class T Co-Drivers Championship because even if Richard Carolyn in the Jeep were to win the next 2 events and Leek failed to finish, they would be equal on points. Leek would be awarded the championship by virtue of a count-out based on the number of overall and class wins. The Class D Championship has been closely fought and is wide open. GBS Racing Nissan pair Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo won Class D on the Sun City 400 and has a 6-point lead over father and son Johan and Martinez van der Merwe. The Nissan pair has been dogged by suspension problems all season, but their luck seems to have changed for the better. The van der Merwes hail from Harrismith and had a good start to the season by winning the class on the Nissan Dealer 400, but blotted their copybook by not finishing the Sun City 400. They will have to pull out all the stops on the Toyota Dealer 400 if they have any hopes of winning the class championship. Coetzee Labuschagne and Johan Gerber are 3rd in the Class D Championship after solid performances on the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 and the Queen Motorspares Tarka 400, where they finished 2nd in class, and along with Dion Skuman and Jeremy Fall in the Top Car Racing Nissan Hardbody, who were excluded from the Sun City 400, pose the biggest threat to the 1st and 2nd place teams. Cronje and Birkin cannot afford any mistakes on the Toyota Dealer 400 or the Carnival City Casino 400 because teammates Coetzee and Fourie are only 15 points behind them. Former Class E champions Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham in the Team Ford Racing Ranger have a chance of equaling Cronje and Birkin's points if the 2 Castrol Toyota crews record non-finishes on the next 2 events. The Ford pair would then have to be satisfied with a runner-up prize because Cronje and Birkin would be declared the winners on the basis of having recorded more class wins. Class F has been poorly supported, with the two contenders each only finishing one event this season. Jaap Zeeman and Johannes Bauwys in the DFS Ferrobrake Ford Cortina have a 2-point lead over Andre Botha and Beens Heidenrich in the O'Hagan's Koperang Hotel Super Team Chevy. There's been a major reshuffle in the Special Vehicle Championship after the Sun City 400, with former Class B champion Giel Nel in the Look Africa Truggy regaining the lead after Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond retired from the event when the gearbox on the Class A Prolong Bat failed. Reigning Class B champions Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane in the Roller Back Racing JRE also took advantage of the Bat crew's misfortune and have moved into second place in the Drivers' Championship and the lead in the Co-Drivers' Championship respectively. The scene appears to be set for a Class B team to win the overall Special Vehicle Championship, but not if Bat teams Mundell and Bond and Queen Motorspares Tarka 400 and Sun City 400 winners Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkers have a say in the matter. Only 35 points separate first and fifth place, and based on current form, Berthold and Harkers could very easily walk away with the overall Special Vehicle Championship title. Mundell and Bond have a tenuous hold on the Class A lead and are only 2 points ahead of Berthold and Harkers and 17 points ahead of Nissan Dealer 400 and Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 winners Atang Makgegenene and Mike Stangl in the Total Sam Racing Gymco, who have had 2 successive engine failures. They are 18 points ahead of John Moore and Fred Werner in the Shell Connex Chenoweth. Given the unusually high attrition rate in Class A this season, there are potentially 6 crews that could win the class championship. By contrast, the Class B teams have been a model of consistency, and the closely fought Drivers' Championship will only be decided at the Carnival City Casino 400. Nel and Taylor de Chalane are past winners of the championship. The reigning champions have only been able to pick up 1 class win this season and trail Nel by 4 points. They must be relieved that the Class B winner on the past 3 events, Clint Gibson and co-driver Mike Brown in the Presidium Financial Services Bat, have decided to move up to Class A. The Class S battle has been between newcomers Nick Gosler and Warren Bowie in the O'Hagan's Koperang Hotel Super Team Raceco and Botswana-based Mohamed Noor and Mohamed Molson in the Super Veg Raceco, who share the championship lead. The Botswana crew has not entered the Toyota Dealer 400, so Gosler and Bowie only need to finish to gain a healthy lead in the championship. The Toyota Dealer 400 got underway with documentation and scrutineering at Lydenburg Toyota. Unlike other events in the championship, scrutineering was rather civilized and took place indoors. "27 production and 21 special vehicles had entered for the event, but the entire O'Hagan's Koperang Hotel Super Team and Special Vehicle Championship contender Atang Makgegenene withdrew on the morning of the event due to unforeseen technical problems. The 36-kilometer prologue was run in the Kwena Basin area, 35 kilometers from Lydenburg, and for the first time this year, a special vehicle managed to outqualify the production vehicles. Sun City 400 winners Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkis were on a mission in the adrenalized corporate entertainment bat and set a time of 28 minutes and 26 seconds. Winners of 5 of the last 6 races, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek, had to settle for the second fastest time, 33 seconds behind the Nissan V6 powered bat. The proudly South African Nissan hardbody had picked up a mysterious misfire, but that did not appear to slow the pair at all. We're on board with Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith, who were on a mission and wanted nothing more than to out-qualify their teammates. Errors such as this overshoot cost valuable time, and the best they could do was to come to within 9 seconds of Grobler and Leek's qualifying time. Neil Woolridge and Ken Scholthammer qualified 4th fastest in the Team Ford Racing Ranger and would start the main event 10 seconds behind Foss and Griffith. Mark Corbett and Johan Moore were 5th overall and 2nd in the special vehicle category in the Audi V8-powered Century Property Developments bat and would have to make up 72 seconds on the leaders. Castrol Toyota pair RP Reinecke and Robin Houghton set the 6th fastest time overall and were 4th in the production vehicle category, 43 seconds behind Grobler and Leek. Bat vehicles made a clean sweep of the top 3 special vehicle category positions after Clint Gibson and Mike Brown brought the Presidium Financial Services bat home 7th overall and 3rd in category. They were 70 seconds faster than Kutsia Labuskaghni and Johan Gerwe in the Class D GBS Racing Nissan hardbody, who were in turn 16 seconds ahead of Class E championship leaders Mark Ronier and Chris Birkin in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i. Newcomers to off-road racing, Petersburg businessman Arnold du Plessis and co-driver George Baker were only 2 seconds adrift of the Class E Toyota in the Class D BB Auto Nissan hardbody. Brothers Yuri and Andre du Plessis compete in Class E in another BB Auto Nissan hardbody. Klerksdorp businessmen Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo are former Class D champions and are again in contention for the title. They qualified 11th in the GBS Racing Nissan hardbody. Former Class E drivers champion Andrew Birkin was the leading Class B qualifier in the WPP Wingfoot single-seater and would start 12th the following day. Father and son Cliff and Louis Weichelt have got the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser sorted out and were confident of picking up their 2nd Class D win of the season after qualifying 13th overall and 4th in Class D. Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst acquired Hugo and Jaap de Bruyn's championship-winning Class E Toyota Hilux and have proven to be quick. They qualified 14th overall and 2nd in Class E, only 33 seconds slower than Cronier and Birkin. Former Class E champions Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham were 3rd fastest in Class E in the diesel-powered Team Ford Racing Ranger, only 3 seconds slower than Visser and just 2 seconds ahead of the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep crewed by veterans Stratford Vogt and Richard Carolyn. Gerard and Kobie du Plessis could have done without getting bogged down in the mud. Vogt was standing in for Scott Abraham, who is now based in Germany and was servicing for the New Dimension X-Ray BMW team on the UAE Desert Challenge while the Toyota Dealer 400 was in progress. The team's primary objective was to preserve Richard Carolyn's 2nd place in the Class T Co-Drivers Championship. Veteran Kasi Kutsia farms nearby, and he and Okifuri were 4th fastest in Class E and 17th overall in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE. They would have to make up 59 seconds on teammates Cronier and Birkin, while Class B championship contenders Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chelane qualified 2nd fastest in Class B in the Rollerback Racing JRE. Harry Smith-based father and son, Johan and Martinez van der Merwe, were 87 seconds slower than the Class D leaders in the Shivani Colt Rodeo, and followed by 20th placed Dirk van Reenen and Annemarie Ungere in the Dicor Engineering Nissan Sani. They were problems for Gerrit and Kobie du Plessis.
As dit seker so op 20 km toe dat in 'n sloot vasgesit. So skyn sloot toe hak hy vas en ons bietjie baie water in gewees en die throttle control nat geword of iets is fout met hom en dat het ons heel terug gesit. Toe sleep hulle ons na uit daar en maar verder die baan was lekker. Is bietjie rof hier en daar, klipperig party plekke, maar verder is baie lekker.
Problems too for Class A Championship leaders Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond.
We were pushing it a bit hard, trying to get a good prologue start. I think this race is going to be very fast tomorrow and dust is going to count. And we're going very well. The right-hand corner and the left wheel stepped off the edge of the road. Banked this high and the car rolled. She rolled twice, then on the roof. We got out, got her back onto her wheels and finished the race with a bit of a misfire. The alternator wire had come off, so the battery wasn't charging, but we just made it over the finish line.
The majority of the teams took advantage of the hospitality and services provided by Lydenburg dealerships to prepare their vehicles for the main event on Saturday. The Nissan camp was a hive of activity.
That is most likely the fault.
Yes. That is a bargain if that's the problem. Yeah, we're starting second tomorrow behind the bat. But we had a misfire today and it'll probably be a little bit difficult to get our route tomorrow in the dust and we'll be a little bit dirtier, but hopefully the guys have found the fault now and we're going to try and win it tomorrow.
Meanwhile, over at Lydenburg Toyota, service crew were hard at work repairing the differential on Cassie Coetzee KZTE.
Sleeping, fast asleep.
RP Reineker's Land Cruiser required nothing more than a bit of spit and polish. While over at the Ford dealership, the Team Ford Racing Squad was in a confident frame of mind.
It's been a while. The last one I did was actually at Sugarbelt about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And it's a good thing that the bats are back in front. I'm glad that I've put the car in pole position. I think it's good for the sport that we've done this and given the Nissans and the Toyotas and the Fords a good run for their money.
Just over 3 minutes separated the top 10 qualifiers, with a production vehicle brigade holding down 7 of the top 10 places. The next 10 crews were separated by 1 minute, and dust would certainly prove to be a problem. Only 5 special vehicles managed to qualify in the top 20. The Toyota Dealer 400 certainly broke the mold when it came to doing things differently. One such innovation was a 400-meter sprint along the main road, with 1,000 Rand up for grabs for the first crew to top 200 kilometers an hour, or 500 Rand for the first crew to set the fastest time. Spectators from Lydenburg and neighboring towns turned out in full force to witness the spectacle and indulge in some of the free food provided by Lydenburg Toyota.
It's always exciting to come to a new event, and it's great to come to new places that we haven't been going for the last 10 years. But yeah, it is a bit unknown. You don't quite know what to expect. It's a whole new set of organisation. You're not quite sure how the marking is and if they're going to do it as we used to, which we found out quickly in the time trial yesterday. The marking wasn't quite what we were used to, so yeah, it's a bit of unknown, but we're looking forward to it. It's a lovely day. It's going to be as hot as hell. We're going to sweat, but we're ready for it.
I'm expecting a few surprises on the route. Because the route's very tight. Yesterday we experienced that. It's very, very, very tight. And you can take no chances on the route. The moment you think you must go a little bit faster, you're off the road. So I'm glad we're starting at 6, so that there's a few guys ahead of me that can sort of sweep the road for me. And we will stay in the dust, and if there's something happened to them, we'll be there.
Oh, just for this 400-meter sprint, I thought Johan was always navigating it. He may have a little bit of fun as well.
So he's going to take the driving there, and I'll resume driving duties at the start there.
A lot more power, something to respect, but yeah, we kept it together yesterday, and we feel we're in a comfortable position.
Race organizer Willie du Plessis got proceedings underway. On board with Grobler and Leek as they smoked the opposition and clocked 140 kilometers an hour. Ford versus Nissan. Force and Griffith powered away from Woolridge and Shorthammer and also clocked 140 kilometers an hour, with a Ford only managing 131 k's an hour. Reinecke and Houghton were up against Corbett and Moore. The lightweight Audi V8 powered bat showed the Toyota a clean pair of heels. Class D Nissan versus Class A bat. Clearly a mismatch, but then it was all just for fun. Gibson and Brown clocked 139 kilometers an hour and were the fastest of the special vehicles. Four-cylinder Toyota power took on six-cylinder Nissan power. For a moment it looked as if Cronje and Birkin would get the better of du Plessis and Baker, but in the end the Nissan edged out the Toyota by only 1 kilometer an hour.
The SA Off-Road Championship is proudly presented by ABSA. Championship is proudly presented by ABSA.
The route for the Toyota Dealer 400 included a 120-kilometer section from Leidenburg to Badfontein, followed by 2 laps of a 107-kilometer loop. Terrain included rocky outcrops, some muddy patches and fast anthill strewn sections, which would catch many crews unawares. The official start of the Toyota Dealer 400 at the Leidenburg airfield, and Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkes led the 48-car field away in the adrenalized corporate entertainment bat. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek were next away in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. Fortunately, a stiff breeze minimized the dust problem for Grobler and Leek, who started 33 seconds behind the bat. But teammates Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith, who only started 9 seconds behind them, would soon be faced with visibility problems. Team Ford Racing pair Woolridge and Shorthammer were content to play a waiting game this early in the race, but one suspects that the same could not be said for Mark Corbett and Johan Moore, who were hell-bent on catching race leaders Berthold and Harkes. Poor visibility was now becoming a major problem, as the onboard view from the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser shows. Like Woolridge and Shorthammer, Reinecke and Houghton were hungry for an overall win and adopted a cautious approach in the opening stages of the race. And so too were Class A debutants Clint Gibson and Mike Brown in the Presidium Financial Services bat, which Belgian Gregoire de Mavius drove in the Sun City 400. Class D leaders Coetzee Labuschagne and Johan Gerber were 5th in the production vehicle category and in with a chance of winning the Class D championship, while Class E championship leaders Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin needed a class win to clinch the Class E championship with 1 more race to go. They could have done without this overshoot that allowed du Plessis and Baker to sneak by in the Class D Nissan. On board with Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek, as they, like the rest of the field, struggled to find the route. Berthold and Harkes were about to lose the race lead. The proudly South African Nissan hardbody was, like it has been all season, again at the head of the field and disappearing into the distance. Berthold and Harkes should have been happy to be leading the special vehicle category, but their stated objective this season has been to beat the trucks at their own game, and right now they weren't. Bat Racing has been making inroads internationally, with Gregoire de Mavius recently ordering 8 vehicles, one of which will compete in Dakar 2004. The field was tightly bunched, with Vos and Griffith, who had just got past Berthold and Harkes, playing leaders of the pack in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. Missing from the lineup were teammates Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan, who had retired from the UAE Desert Challenge earlier in the week and were languishing at an oasis in the desert while the Toyota Dealer 400 was in progress. On board with Reineke and Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. They had got by Corbett and Moore, who, like virtually the entire field, had wrong slotted somewhere along the way, losing hard-earned positions and valuable time. Corbett, who's a former winner of the Roof of Africa, is well known for his hard-charging style and would not let this incident affect his performance in the Audi V8-powered Century Property Development's bat. He has had a trouble-filled season and wanted nothing more than to walk away with the special vehicle category laurels on the inaugural Toyota Dealer 400. Clint Gibson and Mike Brown had the same objective in mind and were piling on the pressure in the Presidium Financial Services bat. Gibson picked up 3 successive Class B wins before moving up to the ultra-competitive Class A. Yet again, Mark Grenier and Chris Birkin were mixing it with the big guns in their Class E Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i. The pair was 8th overall and 5th in the production vehicle category, with their Class E rivals nowhere in sight. GBS Nissan Racing crew Kutsia Labuskachny and Johan Gerber had dropped a place, but still had matters in control in Class D. Cliff and Louis Weicheld had made up 3 positions and were 10th overall and 2nd in Class D in the diesel-powered N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser. Nissan Sugarbelt 400 winners Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond had moved up from 24th at the start to 11th overall and 4th in the special vehicle category in the Prolong Bat, while Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo, who had started 11th in the GBS Racing Nissan, had dropped a place. KwaZulu-Natal Cane Farmers Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham had made up 2 positions in the Class E Team Ford Racing Ranger and were intent on hunting down class leader Grenier and Birkin. The former Class E champions have had a frustrating season and only managed to pick up a class win on the Nissan Sugarbelt 400. Kasi Kutsia and Oki Fourie were involved in a battle with the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep in the early stages of the race and managed to get by when the Jeep was sidelined with rear brake caliper problems. They were 3rd in Class E and 10th in the production vehicle category. Reigning Class B champions Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane started 18th in the Rollerback Racing JRE and were now 15th overall, 5th in the special vehicle category and the Class B leaders. Johan van der Merwe and his 16-year-old Martinez had gained 3 places in the Shivani Colt Rodeo, but were trailing their Class D rivals by quite a wide margin. De Despite losing the four-wheel drive on the Dicor Engineering Nissan Sani, Dirk van Reenen and Annemarie Ungere had managed to move from 20th at the start to 17th overall. Jury and Andre Duplessis started 22nd and were now 18th overall and 13th in the Class E BB Auto Nissan hardbody, but had Hannes Steyn and Fadi Segers breathing down their necks in the Toyota Hilux KZTE. Newcomers to the special vehicle category, Dani Moret and Andrew Utterson, have yet to finish a race this season, but it looked as if their luck might change. They'd started 27th and had worked their way up to 19th overall and 6th in the special vehicle category. Paulo Piazzamusso stood in for Alfie Cox in the Arnold Chats Cars Nissan hardbody, and he and Henny Terstegen were quite happy to be running in the top 20. Top Car managing editor Dion Skuman and fellow motoring scribe Jeremy Fall had a clean run so far in the Top Car Nissan hardbody and were mere seconds behind Piazzamusso and Terstegen. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek were in total command, but being chased hard by the opposition as they arrived at the rally-style D control that was introduced to enable crews to bypass an impassable section of the route. Force and Griffiths were next to arrive at the D control. Berthold and Harkus were the special vehicle category leaders in the adrenalized corporate entertainment bat, and the distant dust trails indicated that the rest weren't too far behind. Team Ford racing pair Woolridge and Scholthammer were third in the production vehicle category as they entered the D control area. So far, nothing untoward had happened to the leading group, but behind them, positions were changing all the time as crews got lost in unfamiliar terrain. Reineke and Houghton stormed into the D-control area in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and had Corbett and Moore in the Century Property Developments bat right on their tails. Corbett and Moore campaigned in Isuzu in Class D last year, but decided to return to the special vehicle ranks on this year's Toyota 1000 Desert Race. That race ended prematurely for them after the front suspension of the bat was destroyed in an encounter with a tree stump. The recontrol area was 8 kilometers down the tar road, and the 12-minute break would give crews a well-earned rest before the Battle of Leidenburg resumed. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek had a 30-second lead over teammates Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith, with Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkus a further 16 seconds behind. Woolridge and Scholthammer were 62 seconds behind the leading Nissan. Reineke and Houghton were 2 minutes and 27 seconds behind the leading Nissan and 1 minute and 25 seconds adrift of the Ford.
The SA Off-Road Championship is proudly presented by ABSA.
Inconsistent route marking proved to be a problem for many teams, with third-placed special vehicle crew Clint Gibson and Mike Brown struggling to find the correct route in their Presidium Financial Services bat. Problem befell Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i, and they were in danger of losing the Class E lead. The Class D battle was intense, with leaders Labuskaghni and Gerber fighting it out with the Weichels, who took advantage of the GBS Racing pair's wrong slot to grab the Class D lead. Class A championship leaders Mandel and Bond also made up a place at the expense of the Nissan pair. Kachny and Gerber were now second in Class D and had teammates Grobler and Prinsloo closing in on them. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham took advantage of Cronje and Birken getting lost and were the new Class E leaders in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. Veterans Henry Costain and Renier Jooste started 31st after picking up problems with the ex-Clint Gibson Class B Atlas Copco bat and were running in the top 3 in Class B. Husband and wife Gerrit and Kobe du Plessis started 38th after problems in the prologue and were handily placed in Class A after a storming drive through the field. And so too were Stratford Vogt and Richard Carolyn in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep, who started 16th but then ended up last when a pin holding the brake pads on the rear brake caliper sheared. They spent 30 minutes repairing the damage and were now on a charge back up the leaderboard. Talking of leaderboards, there was in fact a new leader. Reineke and Houghton had got by the leading pack when they wrong slotted, and the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser was running at the head of the field for the first time this year. Force and Griffith was second in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody and were closely followed by Neil Woolridge and Ken Schulthammer in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. Where was Grobler? There had also been a change at the top of the special vehicle category leaderboard. Corbett and Moore were the new leaders in the Century Property Development's bat and were being chased by Grobler and Leek, who had in fact picked up a puncture. Gibson and Brown were second in the special vehicle category and had quickly got to grips with the awesome power of the Audi V8 motor fitted to the bat. Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond were now third in the roofless prolong bat and within sight of Clint Gibson and Mike Brown. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham would hold the Class E lead for over 100 kilometers before getting the Team Ford Racing Ranger stuck in a ditch. Class E championship leaders Mark Cronje and Chris Birken were second in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i and concentrating hard on not making any mistakes that could jeopardize their championship position. Teammates Cassie Coetzee and Oki Fourie maintained a steady pace and were a handy buffer between Cronje and a horde of Class D crews that were going all out to finish ahead of the Rotax Max Karting World Champion. Cliff and Louis Weichelt led Class D, which meant that Toyota now had the lead in every one of the production vehicle classes. Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo had managed to get past teammates Labus Kachny and Gerber and were second in Class D. Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane were in total control of Class B and 5 minutes ahead of Special Vehicle Championship leader Gil Nel in the Look Africa Truggy and fourth overall in the Special Vehicle category. De Chalane had already clinched the Class B Co-Drivers Championship before the Toyota Dealer 400. The Van der Merwe father and son crew had a relatively trouble-free run and were third in Class D in the Shivani Colt Rodeo. Gil Nel was as consistent as ever in the second-placed Class B Look Africa Truggy and was closely followed by Class B rival Ernst Corbett and Warwick Goosen in the Century Property Development's bat. Comeback kid Nardus Alberts and Colin Hunter were the lone entrants in Class S, and their only complaint was the number of punctures they picked up. A new leader in the special vehicle category. Clint Gibson and Mike Brown had got past Corbett and Moore 10 kilometers into the start of the second loop and were opening a steady gap on the chasing pack. Just listen to the sweet sound of that Audi V8 motor. Mark Corbett and Johan Moore were second in the Audi V8 powered Century Property Development's bat. In what was turning out to be a bat benefit, Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond were third overall and in Class A in the Nissan V6 powered Prolong bat. Taylor and Deschalaine still led Class B, but they got stuck in a mud hole and broke reverse gear. Arch rival Andrew Birkin was the only competitor to help them out of the mud hole, but by then the gearbox had cried enough.
That's a nice lead.
Kirstein and Jooste in the Atlas Copco bat were quick to take advantage of Dani Marais and Andrew Utterson's misfortune.
Yeah, it's going well. We just get stuck behind the buttons. I mean, we were stuck behind and they don't move over. So they hold you up a very, very long time.
Early race leaders Berthold and Harkes had got stuck in a deep hole after getting lost on the first section, which cost them 40 minutes and the lead. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek had regained the lead in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody and bypassed the designated service point at Badfontein. Neil Woolridge and Ken Scholthammer had also led at one stage but were coming in for an unscheduled pit stop. A long-range fuel tank meant that Foss and Griffith didn't have to stop in the pits, but not so the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser of Reineke and Houghton, which needed a top-up of fuel. The fact that Woolridge had removed his helmet meant the race was over for the former champion.
As the years progressed, the Ford it's closed and closed and closed on the Nissan. We've seen in the last two races, we've been right up there, but in the last race we lost a battery 30 k's from the end. And this race we didn't have the best of time trials, but in the dust held us up badly, and Hannes got away a little bit, and then we just closed and got past both the Nissans and pulled out quite a nice gap, and Hannes and I were just going and at a nice pace, not really going mad at all, and it looks like we've broken the back diff, so the bad luck just continues. I think roll on January the 1st and a whole new start, and we start again. It hasn't been the greatest of years, but it's nice to know that the development that we're doing on the car is progressing all the time. It's getting better and better, and I think with the rule changes for next year and a couple of tricks we've got up our sleeve, I'm hoping we'll be one step ahead of the Nissans instead of one step behind at the moment.
A polished performance saw Gibson and Brown maintain their lead in the special vehicle category.
Yeah, very quite fast. A lot of areas that are very badly marked, very ambiguous. A lot of guys getting lost. The track is good, but yeah, like I said, the marking could be worked on.
Mundell and Bond had moved into second place ahead of Corbett and Moore. Barring any unforeseen problems, there was just no stopping Grobler and Leek as they headed for another overall victory in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. Foss and Griffith were now riding shotgun to make sure that there were as many finishes as possible between their teammates and Production Vehicle Championship contenders Cronje and Birkin, while Reineke and Houghton wanted nothing more than to grab the lead away from the Nissan pair. Mark Cronje and Chris Birkin were back in control of Class E and were a fine 4th overall in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i, and not to be quite outdone, Kasi Kutsia and Oke Fourie had moved into 2nd place in Class E and were 5th overall in the Hilux KZTE. Cliff and Louis Weichelt were 6th overall and the Class D leaders in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser after Hein Grobler broke a torsion bar on the GBS Racing Nissan. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham followed them closely in the 7th placed Class E Team Ford Racing Ranger. Perseverance paid off for Johan and Martinez van der Merwe, who were 2nd in Class D. An encounter with a big bump late in the race caused the Colt's windscreen to shatter and the roof support to break off. Marius van Vuren and Chris Maria had moved up to 3rd in Class D in the Alberanti Autospray Land Rover and were on their way to their 3rd finish of the season. teammates, brothers Mark and Stuart Moffat, would eventually finish 23rd in the McCarthy Land Rover and also pick up their third finish of the year. The surviving crews were now in the home stretch, and as has come to be expected, a proudly South African Nissan was on its way to a 14th successive win in the South African Off-Road Car Racing Championship presented by ABSA. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek had already won 5 of the 6 events run to date, and a 6th in the South African Off-Road Production Vehicle Championship was almost within their grasp. Force and Griffith have had 2 runner-up finishes this season, and a third appeared to be in the bag for the reigning production vehicle champions, who have got to grips with the awesome power of the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. Enjoy the ride. Reyneke and Houghton have finished second once, fourth once and third on 2 occasions this year. The Castrol Toyota pair looked set for another third-place finish after leading in the early stages of the Toyota Dealer 400. Gibson and Brown performed like true veterans and were not intimidated in any way whatsoever by the spectacularly fast Presidium Financial Services bat. The transition from Class B to Class A had been seamless, and they appeared to have the measure of Corbett and Moore in the second-placed Century Property Development's bat. Gerard and Kobie du Plessis in the Mobile Jimco had overcome a multitude of problems in the prologue and the main event, and had grabbed third spot away from Gerald Mondell and Billy Bond in the prolong bat. The KwaZulu-Natal pair needed as many points as possible if they wanted to stay in the running for the Special Vehicle Championship, and it wasn't in their best interest to be running way down in 4th place. Cronje and Birkin were 4th overall and the Class E leaders for the umpteenth time this season. The Class E Championship was enticingly close. In what must rate as the comeback drive in the race, Gary Berthold and Brandon Harker stormed from last to 9th overall and 5th in the special vehicle category, ahead of Class E runners-up Kasi Kutsia and Oki Fourie in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE. A fine performance by the Weichelt father and son crew saw them heading for a 6th overall finish and the Class D win. Terence Marsh and Archie Rutherford survived fuel pressure problems and a constant misfire on the Nashua Mobile Jimco to move from the back of the field to 12th overall, while Schroeder and Peckham had to be content with 3rd in Class E. Van Vuren and Maria were 14th overall and 2nd in Class D in the Alberanti Autospray Land Rover, and had relegated the Van der Merwe Shivani Colt Rodeo to 3rd in Class D. Polokwane brothers Yuri and Andre du Plessis were 10th in the production vehicle category and 4th in Class E in the BB Auto Nissan hardbody. Andrew Birkin led Class B in the early stages of the race, but was initially slowed by brake problems. Despite this, he threw caution to the wind and started to pile on the pressure and grabbed the lead away from Gil Nel with 75 kilometers to go. Hamish and Alistair Stubbs were 3rd in Class B, despite a puncture and losing the power steering on the fence-erect Viper. Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo broke a side shaft on the GBS Racing Nissan, but were able to strip one off teammate JP Augustine's stricken vehicle and get going again after lengthy repairs. Arnold du Plessis was in contention in Class D earlier in the race, but was now stuck beside the track.
Ek dink dit is die tweede papwiel wat ons kry in my klitsvlei, so ons ry nou maar klaar te maak.
A cruel blow indeed for the newcomers to the SA Off-Road Car Racing Championship presented by ABSA, but they would limp home 16th overall in the production vehicle category. Fate also dealt Henry Steyn and Renier Jooste a bad hand. They were challenging for the Class B lead when the Atlas Copco bat ran out of fuel, while a telltale trail of oil spelled disaster for the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep.
You want to talk? You talk. You drove it.
Well, what's happened now is our transmission has popped. Either torque converters split or we've lost a seal or something like that, but it's just pumped all the oil out, and that's the end of our race. We just can't get going after this.
There were no such problems for race leaders Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek as they headed for the finish of the Toyota Dealer 400 and their 6th win of the season in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody. This victory also secured them the Production Vehicle Drivers and Co-Drivers Championship and was Nissan's 3rd successive championship win.
It was unbelievable. I think the club did a very, very good job for the first time out. There's a few little things that we'll have to talk to them about. But I think the route was rough at places. They had a little bit of everything in there, and I think it was a good off-road route, a good national championship.
Duncan Voss and Mike Griffith finished 2nd overall in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody, which puts them in contention for the runner-up spot in the Class T Championship. They finished 3 minutes and 49 seconds behind the leaders. R.P. Reyneke and Robin Houghton were 3rd in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, a further 6 minutes behind the 2nd-placed Nissan. Special vehicle category winners Mark Corbett and John Moore couldn't believe their luck when race leaders Clint Gibson and Mike Brown wrong-slotted as they entered the pit complex. An upper A arm had broken on the Presidium Financial Services bat, and Gibson and Brown had to limp 30 kilometers to the finish, only to be beaten with less than 100 meters to go. They'll both rue this inexplicable mistake.
Yeah, we had a great race. We got a bit lost in the first loop, which held us back a bit, but it's good to be in front again and to win a race.
A well-deserved 4th overall, the Class E win and the Class E Drivers and Co-Drivers Championship for Mark Renier and Chris Birkin in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i.
Yes.
It's been a tough year. Cassie's been really, really quick, and the Ford's been really fast as well. They've had a lot of bad luck, and I expected them to come on strong towards the end of the year, which they did, but they just couldn't quite finish the races. And yeah, it was tough right up until today, and today with the race being so tough, I was a little bit worried. But at the end it came through, and yeah, we're number 1.
The Class D win went to Cliff and Louis Weichelt in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser.
It was a bit tight for us in places, so the car, and because the car's top heavy, and I think our shock setup's not exactly right. We still bouncing around too much, so we got to get back to the drawing board and set up the shocks properly. But the long straight stuff, it was quick enough, and I think we were competitive today.
Andrew Birkin came from way down the field to win Class B in the WPP Wingfoot.
I've been waiting a long time to have this class win, and eventually it's come. The problem with the vehicle was when I got it is that on every race something else would break. If it was consistently the same thing, it's easy to repair, but or make a plan to get it fixed. But every time it was something else. But I think I've solved most of the problems. And I had a problem early on this morning. I hit the gate post, had quite a bit of speed, but I came out of it fortunately, and I had a good race.
Veteran Nardus Alberts and Colin Hunter won Class S in the Rapsa Raceco.
We had 3 punches. This is the result of the last one. Because normally when you get a puncture, you try to believe it's anything else than a puncture. So as you go on, this is what happens. But it was a good race. I think these guys have done exceptional. I'd like to think this is on a permanent circuit for next year. Because it's well marked and it's a beautiful terrain for these kind of vehicles.
Another 1-2 for Nissan and 2 class wins for Toyota on the Toyota Dealer 400. only 18 of the 27 production vehicle starters made it to the finish of the Toyota Dealer 400, which proved to be deceptively tough. Bat vehicles dominated the top 5 placings with maiden victories in the South African Off-Road Car Racing Championship presented by ABSA for Corbett and Moore, Birkin and Alberts and Hunter. Bat Racing has formed strategic alliances with a number of overseas suppliers, one of which is Fortin Racing.
We're here to support our customers that run our gearboxes down in South Africa. We've got quite a few of them now in the special class, and they're doing quite well. It's interesting to see a small mini truck, that we call them in the States, win a race overall in four-wheel drive, but it's a different course here. It's very similar to Baja 500 or the Baja 1000. The terrain with the many gates and road crossings and running along the fields and the fence lines, it's very similar to Baja. And four-wheel drive is very well suited for that type of terrain, and they go quick.
Some of the teams took time out after a day of hectic racing to take members of the public who had paid for the privilege of sitting next to their heroes for a lap of a specially laid out course at Badfontein.
Ek het hom uitgetrek voor ek in die bakkie geklim het.
14,000 rand was raised with the proceeds donated to the local old age home.
Maybe one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life.
No way.
Manne? Dit wil gaan doen word hoor. Hold your hand out. Yes.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the fortunate few who, along with the drivers, did their bit for charity on the Toyota Dealer 400. The final round of the SA Off-Road Car Racing Championship presented by ABSA is the Carnival City Casino 400 on November 14 and 15. The prologue will be run entirely within the Carnival City Casino complex on the Friday, and the main event will consist of 3 laps of a 135-kilometer route between Brakpan and Heidelberg. See you there.
Benauwd about it.